Okay, so for this video, I'm going to only talk about different ways you can draw samples from a population. So let's remind ourselves, what are we talking about here? Here's the basic framework of a statistical study. We have our question to investigate it. We get data. The data comes from the sample only. The data comes from the sample. However, the sample is part of a larger population. Okay, so right here we're talking about how do you pick your sample. There are lots of different ways you can pick your sample. So one way you can pick your sample is by asking everyone to participate. This is an example of a census. So, for instance, if here is our population, and if blue represents the participants, sorry about this, guys, I'm just a mess today. Then if we ask everyone to participate, this whole thing gets filled in. If these are the people we're asking to participate. A simple random sample is when our participants are randomly sampled, or randomly asked to participate. So if this is your population, then we would randomly pick people inside that population to participate. So some examples are, for instance, if for some reason we wanted to poll the entire United States, so if the population was US, then for this, what we would do is get a list of everyone who has a phone number, and do either call for survey or mail for survey. And even then, we would still miss people because not everyone has an address and not everyone has a phone call. But I think that's as good as you can get. Or you can go door to door. But even then, we're still going to miss people because not everyone lives. Some people are homeless. So an example of this, if the population is the United States, might be, let's see, we could put names into a hat. And pick out a certain number of those names. So that's a really good analogy for this one. A systematic sample, I'm going to start out just by drawing the picture first. Let's say this box represents our population now. And every member is a little box inside. Okay, so a systematic sample is whenever you pick every nth person. So for this one, we're picking every third person, for example. So for this one, you would pick participants as every nth member in population. So for this one, I'm picking every third member. It could be every third member, every fourth member, etc. And lastly, another way you could pick your sample is by this stratified method. So this one involves steps. The first step is divide population into groups. So here's my population. It doesn't matter how many groups. It could be 1, 2, 3 groups. It could be 2 groups. It could be 4, etc. Okay. Second step, randomly select participants within each group. So within each group, I'm going to randomly select them inside here, and inside here. One good example, so let's pretend we're still polling the United States. One way you could do it is you could split it up into males and females. And then once you have the males in one group, the females in the other, you choose some method to randomly pick participants within that group. So we'll do two quick examples. Every fifth person boarding a plane is searched thoroughly. Well, this one is very easy to pick out. Anytime you see like a number there, that's going to be a systematic sample. Okay. And just as a side note, the population here is the entire plane. The sample now is every fifth passenger. Okay. Let's see here. Researcher randomly selects and interviews 50 male and 50 female teachers. 50 male and 50 female. Well, I'm a little torn. I'm not sure if it's the simple random sample or the stratified random sample. However, if it were this kind, then it's very unlikely that you would get exactly 50 male and exactly 50 females. So it seems more likely that you would first split it up into male and female and then administer your poll. So I'm going to go with stratified sample. So for here, your population, I'm assuming he's just interested in teachers. And the sample would be the 50 male, 50 female teachers. 50 male and 50 female teachers. Okay, so those are 4 techniques of sampling. We're going to do 3 more. 3 more. Okay. Cluster. A cluster sample. So for this kind of example, you have your population. And then you divide your population into groups. So your first step, divide population into groups. Your second step, randomly select groups to participate. Okay, so I'm going to put a star. I'm going to only pick this one and this one and this one. How about those are the 3 that I want to participate? I'm not doing all of the groups. I'm only doing some of the groups. As a side note, this is very similar to the stratified. However, with the stratified, all groups participate. Okay, so how about I make a note of that? Under stratified, each group participates. Each group participates. But here, only a random number of them participate. And then step 3, census to selected groups. So within these groups, I'm going to give a census to get my participants. So let me fill it all in because I'm surveying every single person in that group. Okay. And that's where your participants come from. So for the two-stage cluster, it's very similar to the cluster. Here, I still have my population. Now I'm going to divide it up into groups. 1, divide, pop into groups. 2, randomly select groups to participate. So this is very similar. Randomly select groups to participate. Let's make it the same 3 as before. How about this one, and this one? So step 3 is, instead of doing a census, now I'm going to randomly select participants from selected groups. So this could be through random sample. I could do stratify. I could do systematic. Don't know. But to represent the randomly selected, I'm just going to do dots here. Okay, so not everyone in those groups participates. And the last one, and this is the worst one, is the convenient sample. And that's if, let's say you have your population, and for your sample, you choose accessible individuals. So an example of this might be you choose your friends, co-workers, basically people who would be really easy to give your survey to. And this is by far the absolute worst way you can do it. We do not want to do this. But it's good for us to be able to identify what kind of samples are convenient samples.